Hey guys, it's Adam back with a brand new episode of Living in Denver. But before we get started, I got a quick question for you. Do you mind if I ask you something? Okay, cool. Are you like a lot of other viewers and other people that I'm talking to on a daily basis that have identified Denver as where they probably decide that they want to move to, but you just can't find what neighborhoods really fit best what you're looking for when it comes to price point, amenities, location, all that good stuff? Well, if that's you, then this video is also for you because I'm sharing with you guys 3 of the most underrated neighborhoods in Denver that I'm guessing you might not even know about. So I'm really excited to share this one with you guys, so stay tuned. All right, so as I said to you guys, today is going to be all about these 3 underrated neighborhoods coming from a local expert like myself. There's a lot of other areas on top of these 3, but these are specifically ones that I'm finding that a lot of my clients, friends, other viewers maybe like yourselves that just don't even know about. And they're some of my favorites and some that a lot of my recent clients have found a lot of success in with buying homes. So I'm excited to share all 3 of these with you. You're definitely going to want to stick around till the end because the third one is the one that I have been most excited to share with people because it's an area that I honestly didn't really know too much about myself until recently. But we're going to start with the first of the 3, which is Wheat Ridge. So there's a lot of things about Wheat Ridge that I personally love. Spoiler alert, I actually grew up and spent a lot of my life in Wheat Ridge. Went to Wheat Ridge High School. I was actually the school mascot, the Wheat Ridge High School farmer for a couple years. So I got a lot of history when it comes to Wheat Ridge, but I think my parents were smart in choosing this side of Denver to really set up as our home base for the majority of my younger years. And what I love about Wheat Ridge, among a few other things, but primarily, I just love its location. So if you guys are potentially, moving out to Denver and you've got expectations that you're going to be going up to the mountains all the time and lots of fun outdoor activities after work on the weeknights, well, there's areas that definitely are better than others when it comes to location and accessibility to get to all of these fun activities. Wheat Ridge is great for this because it's on that western side of Denver. So Wheat Ridge is located just to the west of downtown Denver. Actually, it's just west of a smaller little neighborhood called Edgewater. It's got Arvada to the north, it's got Lakewood down to the south, and we've got Golden out to the west. And all of those areas all have a lot of cool stuff too. But what I love about Wheat Ridge specifically is you're just a little bit further west where you're that much closer to the I-70 access to get up to the mountains very, very easily. But also you're in an area that just has a little less congestion. If you're looking at other areas in Denver, for example, further down south like Highlands Ranch, or maybe out southeast in Aurora, or maybe even up north of downtown Denver in areas like Thornton and Northglenn, all of those areas are also great spots, but you're going to have a lot more congestion, a lot more density of people, as well as just more traffic and all that other stuff that goes with this. So with Wheat Ridge, it's a little bit more of an older neighborhood. And from a home buying perspective, I think this is a great opportunity, specifically right now, because it is still kind of one of these more underrated neighborhoods in Denver. A lot of the homes in Wheat Ridge are still ranch style, larger lot sizes, and a lot are still unimproved, meaning they're still original, potentially from even the people that first bought the homes back in the 40s and 50s. 40s and 50s are typically where a lot of the homes in Wheat Ridge were built. So they're about 75 years old at this point in a lot of cases. Some of these homes actually still are original owners or people that are currently living in them or getting into that age where they're empty nesters and potentially maybe they're going into assisted living facilities where you're able to find some great value add opportunities, meaning fixer-uppers, homes that are still more in original condition where you can go in and improve things yourself. Upgrade the kitchen, maybe knock out a few walls to create a more open floor plan, stuff like that. I think with Applewood and Wheat Ridge, this area on the western side of town, this is one of my favorite areas to show clients and people that are maybe under a specific price range where they're maybe struggling finding homes in other areas. If you look in Wheat Ridge, you might find some that do fit some more opportunities for getting in and at least being able to afford buying the home. And then over a period of maybe a year or two, or maybe longer, start doing some of these projects and improvements yourself to really create that own style of home that you've been looking for. So Wheat Ridge has a lot going for it, but definitely one of the biggest things for me is location. Also, what I love about Wheat Ridge is you look at the surrounding area, some of the most popular, hippest, hottest neighborhoods, hottest areas in Denver are really, really close to Wheat Ridge, which is just telling us that it's in an area that's very desirable. And I think over time, we'll continue to see some of that same level of improvement happening in Wheat Ridge. And we're already starting to see this, which I'll share with you guys here in a second, but a couple of the areas that are around Wheat Ridge that are really drastically improving a lot quicker than Wheat Ridge is areas like Golden, as well as Highlands, which is just kind of a little bit to the east of us, and also to Berkeley, also known as Tennyson, which is just a little bit to the north and east of Wheat Ridge. So there's some areas really, really close to Wheat Ridge that are very, very popular. And again, over time, Wheat Ridge is going to see more and more of this happening within Wheat Ridge also. You know, just a couple quick examples of this on 38th Avenue, which is one of the most majorly used west-east roads in Wheat Ridge. 38th had a huge redevelopment right next to Wadsworth and Sheridan, known as the 38th Avenue District. And this is just an area that's seen a ton of improvements. Some of these really hip new bars with rooftops, a lot of updated retail shopping centers that are getting facelifts and just seeing a lot more of what people are looking for today, meaning, you know, like bars that have outdoor spaces for dogs, as well as different styles of mixed use developments where you've got apartments and condos up above with retail and businesses and restaurants on the ground level. Just cool stuff like this that typically wasn't seen anywhere in Wheat Ridge. We're starting to see some of this stuff. So that 38th Avenue district is one of the big ones. Right now, it's actually a huge headache because there's a ton of just traffic jams and construction going on, specifically at 38th and Wadsworth, which is really close to where I grew up. I went to elementary school at Wilmore Davis, which is right in this area. But also, in addition to that 38th Avenue specific improvement that I'm talking about, just maybe about a half a mile to the west of that is where Lutheran Hospital used to be. It's one of the major hospitals for the last, decades and decades and decades. But just in the past year and a half, 2 years, they've actually completely closed down that location. And now there's this beautiful, brand new Lutheran hospital that's really more on the border of Golden and Wheat Ridge in an area called Applewood. It is a beautiful, beautiful new hospital. And now we're seeing all kinds of new development going on all around there, new businesses, housing, all kinds of stuff. And again, another example of just the improvements that we're seeing in Wheat Ridge. The original Lutheran Hospital, though, is also gearing up to see a lot of improvements there as well, with just kind of what's going to happen with this massive amount of land where the Lutheran Hospital previously existed. Another quick little local tip that I'll share with you. We also have what's called the Clear Creek Trail. And this actually connects all the way from Golden out west all the way to downtown Denver. And it's just this really, really nice paved trail that you can take. A lot of times I have a really good friend, for example, that lives in kind of that Golden Applewood area where he can get on this trail with his family from his house and just ride their bikes. He's got, a couple young kiddos that have their striders and training wheels still on their bikes. And they're able to, very comfortably ride on the Clear Creek Trail to downtown Golden, grab lunch, and then come back afterwards. So just stuff like this exists in Wheat Ridge, even though it might feel a little bit more of like an older community. You do still have a lot of great amenities when it comes to parks, trails, all that good stuff. And before we move on, if Wheat Ridge is kind of piquing your interest, don't forget I have a really, really helpful video that actually dives into Google Maps, where I kind of share specific parts of Wheat Ridge and where I think are some of the areas to identify as the best potential spots in town to look for real estate. If you guys want to check out that video, I'll put a link up above. Make sure you guys look at that one if you are very excited and just more interested about Wheat Ridge. But let's go ahead and talk now about the second underrated neighborhood. And this one's also on the western side of town, but it's a little bit east of Wheat Ridge, and it's called Sunnyside. And I've actually been doing a few other videos on Sunnyside recently because this is probably one of the hottest areas right now when it comes to, it's still underrated, but it's an area that a lot of people are starting to finally find out about. And That's not going to change. Only more and more people and popularity is going to be associated with Sunnyside in the future. So if you guys are watching this video, definitely, if you are at the time right now to be considering moving here, put Sunnyside on your list and look at it now, because 2 or 3 years from now, it's going to be, significantly more expensive. Already starting to see that. So Sunnyside, though, why I wanted to share this one as an underrated neighborhood is it's also got this awesome location. So this one, it's not as far west as Wheat Ridge, like I mentioned, where you don't have as much availability to get out to hiking trails and get up to I-70 and onto the mountains quite as fast. But it also has that similar, I think, benefit being on the western side of town. So you have very easy access to get onto I-70 to get out west, go up skiing on the weekends. But also you're really, really close to I-25. So maybe if you're trying to get up north or go down south, you just really are in this area of Denver where you have a ton of accessibility with some of the major highways, all just really right out your back door. And when I say right out your back door, don't let that scare you thinking that you're gonna have crazy amounts of just traffic and noise and pollution all around you. It's not like that. It's just that you are within, I'd say a half a mile of both if you need to be to get onto either of these, major highways. So as I said, Sunnyside is a little bit to the east of Wheat Ridge, but what I love about Sunnyside is its location directly around some of these very hot, very popular neighborhoods. So Highlands, I mentioned how Wheat Ridge is close to Highlands. So is Sunnyside. Sunnyside is on the other side of Highlands from Wheat Ridge, but it's also really close to Jefferson Park. It's really close to just downtown Denver. So it really does have that perfect blend of a bit more of an urban environment. However, at a price point that's a little bit more realistic compared with Highlands and some of these areas that have just gotten blown way out of proportion just because of how popular they become. Just on the other side of Highlands, also in the Sunnyside area, is another very popular area called Berkeley, also known as Tennyson. And this is another spot that I look at it as Sunnyside, but 10 years ago. It also has become very, very popular. And I just think it's kind of a little bit further along where more people already know about it. Prices are inflated. What happens is in these areas that start to kind of get discovered, you'll start to see these old homes get bought up. Typically, they're bungalow-style homes built in the early 1900s, and what people will do is they'll either scrape them, or a lot of times they'll actually pop the top, create a larger home on the existing footprint, and create just a little bit more modern style of home, which is a lot more popular to the majority of buyers in today's market. There's also been quite a few developers that have a pretty keen sense of what's going on in these areas, and they'll actually look for homes that have been grandfathered in and have a specific type of zoning. So, most residential homes are known as what's called R1. That's the zoning that they're in. However, you can also, though, identify homes, a lot of them are in this area where they're called R2, which means that they're actually allowing to have 2 dwellings on that one lot. This can then get subdivided, in a home that maybe previously was a single family home from the 1920s can now be purchased. Maybe it's got a large enough lot size to then get redeveloped into either 2 separate single family homes, or a lot of times what you're seeing in Sunnyside, as well as areas like even in Berkeley and Highlands, where now instead of a single family home, it's a townhome, kind of like a duplex. Basically, it's just basically a shared party wall with 2 homes or 2 dwellings, meaning it's R2 instead of that R1 zoning. So you are going to see some of this also in the Sunnyside neighborhood. And before moving on, another kind of local tip I want to share with you guys on Sunnyside is I love how it's got so much culture in the Sunnyside area. So when you start looking at different neighborhoods, there's obviously pros and cons to every part of Denver. When you look at newer built communities, areas that have a lot of new construction, typically there's not going to be as much history or much culture in those areas, at least not yet. Hopefully in 20 or 30 years from now, those areas will also have a lot more of that. But when you're looking at different neighborhoods, the new build communities typically don't have much of that. These more established older communities, Sunnyside being a great example of this, have a way more just abundant culture behind them. My favorite restaurant when it comes to Italian food is actually in Sunnyside, and it's called Gaetano's. I've also done some other videos about Gaetano's just because it is that special of a place, but it's this old Italian restaurant where a lot of the big names like Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. and all those kind of Rat Pack individuals, along with a lot of mobsters, they actually used to frequent Gaetano's, and There's all kinds of rumors that there's hidden tunnels underneath the restaurant where some of these guys would have special secret meetings where mafia would get together. I don't know if I believe all of that, but again, just an example of incredible amount of culture, both with the Italian heritage and also the Latin American heritage. So you're gonna find a lot of great Mexican and Spanish restaurants, as well as some really, really good Italian influenced restaurants in the Sunnyside area. So if I'm kind of laying down some stuff here that's really piquing your interest, I will say about this whole, like, it's underrated. However, the cat already is kind of out of the bag on Sunnyside too. Just using some data just to make this point a little bit more clear. From 2023 to 2024, on average, Sunnyside actually saw a 12% increase in the real estate values. And that's compared to kind of the norm, which is usually about maybe 3 to 5%. So just a good example of how Sunnyside is definitely becoming popular. It's only going to continue to get more and more popular. And, you know, it's just one of those places where if you look at it on a map, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's close to so many different, you know, highlights of Denver, whether it be just downtown Denver, being able to, in most cases, just hop on your bike from your house and be in downtown Denver at Coors Field to catch a Rockies game, or maybe you want to go down to the Denver Art Museum. All of that stuff is literally within biking distance or a very short drive. Or you could just go slightly south of Sunnyside and get right into that other very popular area of Sloan Lake. That's also where the Denver Broncos Stadium is, our Six Flags amusement park, and even the Colorado Avalanche and Denver Nuggets Stadium Ball Arena. So all of this stuff is all within like a 5 to 10 minute drive, maybe a 15 to 20 minute bike ride. You just really do have that perfect blend of urban lifestyle where you have great accessibility to all of that stuff, but you're also still in a more of a traditional neighborhood where you don't feel like you're surrounded by high rises or by a ton of, you know, multi-use developments with lots of apartments and that kind of stuff. It really is mostly still these more traditional early 1900s single family homes. So obviously Sunnyside is a pretty awesome neighborhood as well. Before we move on to that third one that I think you guys might not even be aware of, I also just want to remind you guys that I have a really cool, it's a 2-page neighborhood spotlight. I've got them on almost every part of Denver, but I've got a great one on Sunnyside. I'll put the link down below in the show notes, but definitely check that out. I talk just about my favorite restaurants, you know, the schools that are in the area, best parks, all that good stuff. So make sure you guys download a free copy of that. And with that, let's go ahead and move on now to the third and final neighborhood that I think is very, very underrated, and that is Wellshire. So Wellshire is a different part of Denver altogether. Now, instead of being on the western side of town, we're a totally different part of Denver in that area that's just south of Cherry Creek in kind of southeast Denver. And Wellshire is an area that I honestly did not know much about at all until I had some clients that I helped buy an investment property for last year. You know, Wellshire is actually a pretty small neighborhood when it comes to population. I think it's only about 2,500 residents, but it is truly one of the most unique areas, especially just for where it's located. So if I, you know, maybe caught you when I said the word Cherry Creek, this is an area that is very affluent, and it's also typically areas that have a lot of mixed use where you're going to find, you know, a blend of, you know, a lot of different stuff going on. What's so cool about Wellshire is it really does have a completely different feel than almost anywhere else in the area. And it feels a lot more like a suburb that's kind of trapped in just within a much more urban part of Denver. And, you know, Wellshire is definitely a little bit higher end homes on average. You know, the median sales price this past year was, I think it was about 1.3 million. However, there's definitely homes in Wellshire that you can pick up for 700,000 to 800,000. You know, my clients that I help, they actually, you know, we spent a ton of time looking all over Denver. We also leaned on a resource from 5280 magazine, which is the top 25 neighborhoods. They put it out every year, and, you know, Wellshire kind of kept piquing my clients' interests because they kept seeing it in the top 10, and it had really high rankings according to schools, crime, some of those types of factors. So we spent some time kind of digging a little bit further into Wellshire and ended up realizing after just a few quick visits over there, just driving through some of these streets, that this really was a diamond in the rough when it came to that blend of a suburban type environment, but surrounded by a lot of accessibility to some of the other great urban areas in Denver, like Cherry Creek Mall. Colorado Boulevard is really close to here, so you have a ton of other shopping available right off of Colorado Boulevard. and you are still in a part of Denver where you have a lot of convenience when it comes to getting to downtown Denver, only about a 15-minute drive, but also you can get further down south quite easily if you're trying to get down to the Denver Tech Center. Maybe you work and have to commute to downtown Denver or Denver Tech Center. Wellshire is kind of this nicely positioned location between the two. And I think a very, very strong investment when it comes to real estate values today and where I see them going into the future. One last little locals tip I'll share with you guys before we finish up this video. In Wellshire, it also has one of the highest rated elementary schools in the entire state. It's called Slavens Elementary. I'll let you guys do your own research as far as the ratings of the school. If you guys have never looked at niche.com, that's a great resource to check out where they rate a lot of these types of things. But definitely look into Slavens Elementary if you do have young kiddos and you're trying to find neighborhoods that might have a good school district for you guys to consider as part of your home search process. All right, so hopefully you guys got some value out of that one, especially that third one with Wellshire. I really think this is a special neighborhood that a lot of people just don't know about, and maybe it's a spot that you guys want to add to your list and explore a little bit more in depth. But all three of these are definitely underrated in my opinion, coming from a 40+ year Colorado native. I really think that all three of these are strong investment opportunities for real estate, as well as just areas that are definitely worth looking into if you are considering Denver, Colorado as your next home. So make sure you guys check these out. Again, we're talking all about Wheat Ridge, Sunnyside, and last but not least, Wellshire. All three great areas, definitely underrated in my opinion, and I think spots you guys should put on your list to check out. Hope you guys got some value out of this one. Before we leave, make sure you guys click that link down below where you can download all kinds of free resources on my website, buyers and sellers guides, a locals guide to Denver with these 20 of my favorite neighborhoods, as well as if you're maybe considering new construction homes, a really good handbook all about new construction. All that stuff's completely free. Just go to the link and get a free copy. And don't forget, guys, hit that like and that subscribe button. Show me a little love, help me grow my audience, because I love connecting with viewers just like yourselves and hopefully finding some ways that I can provide value. And if that's you, book a Zoom call with me. I've got this free 30-minute real estate strategy session. It's what a lot of my clients do initially to first have a chance just to interact with each other. I can learn a little bit more about you, and even if you're not considering moving for another year or two, it doesn't matter. I would still love to connect with you guys and just start talking through some of these areas and maybe find a place that really fits what you're exactly looking for. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I can't wait to see you guys next week on a brand new episode of Living in Denver. I'll see you guys then. Bye.